James Sutton. You're on Road to Recovery. My special guest today, which is the first time that I've ever done a show with some young people in recovery, Jessica Vincent and Vladimir Mirich. So welcome. This is
Thank you
part
for
of
having us.
Thank you.
this is part of my powerful team of young people that we are training at Tree of Hope to help us, connect with younger people that are in addiction and on the road to recovery. So I'm going to start with you, Jess, the ladies first. So Jess, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I'm Jess. I'm 20 years old. I grew up here in Bethesda, Maryland. I started my recovery journey when I was 16, and I was in a lot of different treatment centers, in and out. I was in a wilderness program. I was in a residential, and then like a step down young adult, and then I started working a 12-step program. And it took me a little bit to understand and fully kind of grasp the whole idea of sobriety and recovery as a young person. But now I think I got it down more.
You're doing
And
well.
yeah. So I'll be celebrating 9 months sober on March 4th. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm going through the trainings right now at Tree of Hope to further towards my certification as a peer recovery specialist.
Great,
And
great.
in March, we'll be starting the process that we need to do to be able to go into the high schools in, I think, Montgomery County, to try and reach out more to young people struggling.
Okay.
Which is
we're going to come back. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, talk about a little bit about the work that we anticipate you and VAD to do in the schools. So let me get a little bio on VAD too. So VAD, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Vlad. I'm 20 years old. I live in Frederick, Maryland, and I got clean and sober when I was 16 years old. So in August, I'll be celebrating 4 years. Towards the start of that process, I did go to treatment and have just been working myself, growing through a 12-step program and through my passion, which is work at Tree of Hope. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stay with you for 1 minute, VAD, because you have a unique experience. VAD has actually attended the only recovery school in the state of Maryland. And we actually did an interview with the gentleman, let's see, what's the gentleman's name that runs the school? John Edmonds, right? John Edmonds.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had him on our show years ago, and he told us before the school was open, he told us about the up and coming recovery school, Phoenix in Frederick, and also that he's actually an alumnus of the first recovery school in the United States was in Montgomery County. So we have a history of helping young people in Montgomery County, and now we have two young people to help, reinforce that history. You're going to make history, just like he made history with the first recovery school in the United States, which was called Phoenix. And the one in Frederick is called Phoenix too?
Yeah, it's the Phoenix Recovery Academy, but the foundation is called the Phoenix Foundation.
Okay.
And it was based off the first school. The first school was also called Phoenix. But yeah, I attended there from 10th to 12th grade. I started going there when I was 4 months sober. And man, did that place help me. It saved my life.
Okay. And some of our really helpful people in Montgomery County, Judge Roop, he's part of that. Judge Roop spoke about that when we interviewed him on this program. He spoke about the recovery school. He's very passionate about helping young people. And he's the creator of the drug court in Montgomery County.
Oh, okay.
So you got some very good people on your board of directors, especially Judge Roop. He does a lot of great work, even though he's still retired now, but he's still helping people, in Frederick and as well as Montgomery County. So Jess, now let's switch back over to Jess for a second. So Jess, for you, your recovery, you said was a process. Um, so, sometimes young people think that because, they didn't stay clean the first time they were in treatment, that they were a failure. So what made you keep coming back?
Oh, wow. Well, definitely. I had heard a while about, I mean, since I was 16, I had heard about, 12-step programs, and I had no desire to even think about a sober life. I kind of was just doing it because my parents sent me to treatment, and I wanted to just like, it's kind of like checking off a list, just trying to get stuff done, so that I could eventually go back home and go back to my chaotic lifestyle that I was living.
Mhm.
Um, but eventually, I was living in Utah, and my best friend that I actually went to Wilderness with, I had no idea she was sober, but she actually, 12-stepped me, and I had no idea. I had no idea. She was like, "Come move in with me in Colorado," and all she really said was, "You can't drink or use drugs in my apartment." And I was like, you know what? Okay. I was in a bad spot, financially, and shelter. I didn't have a place to live. Um, and so she flew me out there, and I actually joined this 12-step nonprofit organization called Full Circle, the Denver Full Circle program, which is
Okay.
catered to people ages 13 to 26 getting sober.
Oh, great.
And so it really taught me how to have fun. Like, you can have fun as a young person, sober and in recovery. Um, I did end up getting 3 months sober out there, and I did end up relapsing. But without that experience, I wouldn't have had the knowledge of, you know, I remembered the experiences I had while sober and with other young people that wanted to be
Okay.
sober. And that
Okay.
really stuck with me. And I don't think, it was kind of a stopping point, and I needed that like little bit of experience with other young people to keep me coming back and to keep me going. Um, yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Enthusiastic sobriety, I love it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So let me ask Glad, let me switch back to Glad for a second. So that when you started with drugs, was it because of peer pressure? Because, we're trying to understand, why our young people experiment, and a lot of it has to do with adventure. But, you guys know better than me. You I can't hardly remember back. I know I was adventurous and curious, and, peer pressure was the reason why I started using. But why did you
Right.
start using?
I would say the first time I used actually, it was an accident. I didn't know, but I liked the smell of gasoline, and I went to mow the lawn, and huffed it, and I think that that kind of started something for me, where it gave me a feeling where I felt at home, at peace, and so I didn't immediately go off to the races, but it definitely sparked an interest, and I started doing research online. You can look anything up on the internet, and so I was kind of just learning about it and learning what I could do, and so I found a group of people in my grade that were doing those things, that were trying different things, experimenting, and of course at the start I wanted to experiment and I wanted to have fun, but as time progressed, it became my lifeline, and it became the thing that just helped me escape myself.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. And what about you, Jess? What got you started?
Whew, low self-esteem, low self-worth. It was a
Mm.
constant thought of I hate myself, and it felt like I was always having an identity crisis, really. Um, I was good at talking to people. I mean, even before I ever picked up a drink or a drug, I was like good at communicating. I could make friends. But going into high school, it really turned into this thing of like, I need to fit in, I need to fit in, I need to be like everyone else. I was a cheerleader. I switched from private to public school also, which was a change. And I didn't really know anyone. But I felt like I could look at a group of friends or a group of people and point out, like, okay, this person's the funny one, this person is the smart one, or whatever. And I was like, what am I? So I kind of took on the role of being the fun one at parties, the one that was always like down to do all the crazy stuff. And that became my identity. And I think that was a really hard thing for when I got sober. I was super lost and kind of like, who even am I? And what have I been doing for the past like 4 or 5 years? And yeah, it just, it's a constant. I mean, I'm still on a path of like self-awareness, self-growth, and all of those fun things. But it definitely was just, I really didn't like myself, and I wanted to morph my whatever sense of identity I had into exactly what other people were around me.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing that. And I know I talked to you earlier, Vlad, and you were telling me that, you started really alcohol, you identified as your drug of choice, but you did try other things. And I was checking the statistics on the CDC, and it was saying that like 4,000 young people under the age of 21 die every year for just alcohol use. And, we focus right now on, the opiate epidemic, because that is a crisis. The young people across America are also dying from the opiate use. That's 70% of the overdoses are opiates, across the country. But alcohol is still a serious problem with young people. So do you see that's still a problem among, your age group, that is still pretty much, they think that drinking is because it's legal, and now marijuana is legal. So sometimes when we say something is legal, we feel that it won't hurt us. So is that the attitude among the young people now, that drinking is legal and it's okay?
Yeah, I definitely think so with both alcohol and marijuana, but especially alcohol because that's been a very normalized thing in our society, right? Um, so, and also it's very accessible. You can find it almost anywhere.
Mm,
And you can get people to buy it for you, get a fake ID, there's a lot of options to get it. But as far as, who's doing it, I'd say most people try it. But then there's the select few, right? People like me, that go to extents and take it too far, and can't stop once they have started. And you find in school, they kind of teach you where it's like, just don't do it, just don't touch it and you'll be okay. But I think that might need to change because people are going to try different things, and I don't think there's enough resources for kids, when they want to stop, and they can't stop. So, and that's where I needed the most help, and that's where I see a lot of the issues is the kids that do take it too far need those resources.
right. So we're getting ready to take a break for a minute, and we're going to come right back, because that's another part of the crisis in Maryland. Really, they're not, exactly what you said. There are not enough resources for treatment for the
Hmm.
young population. There's a lot of treatment centers, which is great for adults in Maryland, but there are very few treatment centers in Montgomery County and the rest of Maryland for, the younger population. So we're going to take a break and come right back with, your last comment. We're going to expand on that and get Jessica's ideas about that too. So we're going to take a break now. You're on Road to Recovery, and we're talking about young people in recovery today.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's
potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
Hi, I'm James Sutton. You're back with Road to Recovery. Today we're doing young people in recovery. So my two special guests today, we were just talking about, Vlad was talking about treatment as an option and how there's a lack of treatment for younger people in Maryland specifically. So what do you think needs to be done with treatment in Maryland? What would have helped you in your recovery process, Vlad?
So, I come from a lot of privilege. My family has private insurance. So, I got to go to treatment, which is, there are adolescent treatment centers, but there's a huge lack of Medicare, Medicaid, or uninsured treatment for kids especially. And so, I got that privilege to be able to go to treatment and to be located 15 minutes away from the only recovery high school in Maryland, right? Big coincidence, So I think that that's what helped me for sure. And the lack is like what I said, Medicare, Medicaid, and uninsured kids. They need treatment and they deserve that just as much as everyone else.
Okay, thank you. And Jess, what about Montgomery County? How was it for you finding treatment when your parents wanted to put you in treatment in Montgomery County? Is that an easy process or?
So I actually didn't go to treatment anywhere in Montgomery County. I was sent to Georgia, Utah. I
Oh,
lived
okay.
I lived in Salt Lake City for a year, and then I lived in St. George, Utah for a year, and then I don't really count living in Georgia like a real thing because I was in the Blue Ridge Mountains for a wilderness program, so I was only there for 3 months. Um, but my family, I also have been very privileged my whole life. My family also has private insurance, like Vlad said. Um, and, so they had the ability to just kind of pay for things and ship me off wherever they really wanted to put me.
Okay.
That turned really into a thing of defiance. And my mindset was, oh my gosh, like I hate my parents. So when I get out of treatment, I'm just going to do even more crazy things that I was already doing, like it was just defiance. That was my mindset. And something I actually noticed was the first treatment center Wilderness helped me a lot. I loved Wilderness. I would go back there. Really, I would. But that was more mental health, right? It wasn't necessarily the substance misuse aspect. But the first, I guess, program I was ever in that actually helped with the substance thing was the Full Circle program. And that is a nonprofit organization, right? So it's free.
Wow.
And so that was, they get like grants and stuff like that. And that was the first thing that really helped me, which is interesting because I was sent to so many places that, were cost money and stuff. But the first one that I really kind of put effort into was the one that didn't cost any money. And I think there needs to be more places like that because, like Vlad said, places really don't accept Medicaid or Medicare and those kind of insurances. And so a lot of people that aren't as privileged really don't get the ability to go to any treatment or get any help.
Right.
Sad.
Right. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So maybe some people are listening and they'll, put together and, sponsor a program like Full Circle. You said Full Circle?
Yeah. So I still talk to the head of the Denver one, and I'm hoping
Okay.
he kind of expands out here, but they only have they have two. They have one in Boulder, Colorado, one in Denver, then they have one in Phoenix, Arizona. They have one in Atlanta, Georgia, and then they have one in Kansas City. But the one they just opened, the closest one to here is North Carolina. They opened one.
Okay.
So yeah,
So let me ask you this, as part of prevention, I'm going to switch over to prevention because I don't want the time run out before we talk about your up and coming task going into school. So in terms of prevention, Tree of Hope has got an opportunity to go into the schools with young peer specialists, and you're two of the peer specialists that have been chosen to go into the Montgomery County schools. So why do you think you would be good going in the schools? Let's see, Vad, why would you be a good person to send into our school system to help prevention? Because we're having overdoses in our schools now.
Yep. Because I've been through it and I know exactly where these kids are at. Not like 100% accurate, but I've been through a lot of the things that they're going through. And that's something that really helped me, when I showed up to my first treatment center. My whole life I felt different, like no one has felt like the way I was feeling at that time. And someone sat down and told me their life story. And I listened to it and I heard so much of my life in that. And that gave me hope and that gave me courage because they were 10 years sober and there was an age gap. They looked different than me, lived somewhere else, but I could relate to them. And so that gave me hope and that gave me strength. So with going into the schools, our hope is to give these kids a safe space, someone they can talk to, and show up for them where they need help and where they want us to show up. Because that's what I got and that's what helped me. And I think everyone deserves that, is at least someone to talk to, and I'm passionate about it, and it helping people is what keeps me sober today. So.
Right, I can feel your passion. And Jess, what about you? Why should we send you into the schools?
Kind of like what Vlad said, I have been in the same either mindset or just physical or, just state that I can relate to. It's, I have to think back to when I didn't want to do any of what people were suggesting that I do. And I felt like, it was adults talking down to me for so long. I didn't want to listen to like 40-year-old people. I was like, you suck. Like, get away from me. But it wasn't until young people that were sober, like my best friend was like, talk to me. And I saw the transformation because I knew her like from 2 years prior. And I was like, how is this different person? Like, you were crazy. And then I started to see like, okay, maybe like I can do this, and I actually wanted it. And it wasn't until young people started talking to me, people my age, that I even had any willingness to do anything. And I think that's what's so cool is because, Vlad and I, we are young people. And I think young people need to see other young people instead of being talked to by adults. Because, if they already have like parental problems, like family problems, other adults are just going to kind of build more of a resentment. So.
Okay. And I hear in both of you, I hear the trainings have really sunk in. You sound very trained, very, savvy, treatment savvy. I hear the trainings in your, in your narrative, because, and you tell me if I'm wrong, most parents and most people, in the community feel that they can make young people do something, right? That, they can make you get clean, right? They can just make you stop by taking away your car keys or your phone or sending you to your room. But what do you learn in the CCAR trainings about how to approach people? Because I hear it in your narrative. So how are you going to approach these kids in the schools? what are you learning as a peer specialist that goes along with your passion? Because you got the passion. So what trainings do you get to help you with the intervention? Vad, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, just meeting kids where they're at, and empowering them, advocate for them, give them a voice. Like I said, that was the biggest thing for me when I was going through it. I felt like I felt shame, I felt guilt, and I didn't have anyone to go to. And so I was hiding and I had tunnel vision, right? I was looking around like this. But when I went to treatment, when I started going to the recovery high school, people showed up for me in that way and told me it was going to be okay and helped me set goals and help me look to my future, setting smart goals, doing all the things like that, that empowered me and made me feel worthy, made me feel like I could do it, and got me excited to be sober, because I never thought that I'd be excited about something like that. I was like, no, that's not exciting, that's boring. But now I look at it and I'm like, "Ooh, can't wait to get into the schools." So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Jess, what about you? What are you learning from the Tree of Hope trainings that you're getting from CCAR to be a peer specialist that's going to help you in the schools?
Definitely, like Vlad said, meeting them where they're at. I think sometimes I honestly forget sometimes like what I felt like, all the feelings I felt, and how I just didn't want to listen to anyone. And
Mhm.
I have to kind of check myself and be like, okay, you were here really not even that long ago. um, you know, and I have to put myself back in those shoes, the shoes I was in, the shoes they're in right now currently. Um, and I do work a 12-step program, but what I'm learning is, that's not everyone's pathway. There's other pathways of recovery, like harm reduction, and stuff like that, that works for a lot of people. Me personally, it doesn't work, so I need to kind of balance out, like, okay, my opinions and my views, like, they don't really matter right now. If someone wants to ask me about my experience and what I do, that is fine, and I'm open to talking about it, but I'm not going to push it onto someone.
Mhm.
And so I think really keeping myself in check, but yeah, the trainings have really just taught me to meet someone where they're at. And, this is a process. It took me a while. Um, and patience is a big thing, I think. Because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want you to get it so bad. But then I'm like, okay, slow down, because I remember I was so stubborn myself, so stubborn. So,
Right.
yeah.
So I'm gonna see if you okay. Remember the three-legged stool. So you're talking about managing your own stuff,
Mhm.
and then what's another one? Asking good questions and active listening. So those three things you're going to use when you go into the schools, asking good questions. And like both of you said, you meet people where they are, right? So you're not making them do anything, but you are offering them choices and hope. Both of you are a big shot of hope for the young people in Montgomery County school system. And we're so glad to have you. So we're coming to the end. Is there anything you want to say that we didn't cover? You might want to say in closing, either of you.
Um, yeah, I'll go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity, James. If there are young people listening to this right now and you're going through it, I hope you know that we care about you, we love you. And I also want to mention that on Monday nights at Tree of Hope, I do have an adolescent group that I'm doing, which is an hour peer meeting, and then we play Xbox and eat pizza afterwards, and that's from 4:30 to 8:30, and you can find that on the Tree of Hope website, which is treeofhopeassn.com.
Great, thank you. And you got about 30 seconds, Jess. You want to say anything in closing?
Vlad kind of covered it all. The peer group is awesome on Mondays. I mean, like, who doesn't want pizza? You know what I mean? And
That's right.
Xbox. come on, Minecraft, let's be real. But yeah, I love any young person, anyone watching this really, and you're not alone. You know, I've been in your shoes, I've been in your spot, and I understand how hard it can be. But you're loved by so many people. And yeah, thank you for this opportunity. This was awesome.
All right, thank you both. And we're looking forward to, great things from both of you. So today we have done young people in recovery. And thank you so much, Thad and Jess, for being with us today. And we'll see you on the road to recovery.